In the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, dozens of alien leaders sat around a glowing table. Their eyes watched a large screen that showed a small blue planet spinning slowly in the dark. It was Earth. "Humans," said High Lord Zelvar, of the Tulkor Empire. His sharp teeth showed as he laughed. "They still use fossil fuel, can you believe that?" The others laughed with him. Tall, thin beings with glass-like skin, floating blobs with glowing eyes, insect-like creatures tapping their claws on the table. All of them shared the same joke. Earth was weak. Humanity was primitive. In the grand scale of the galaxy, they were nothing. "They are loud," said a creature covered in black fur. "They send messages into space, hoping someone answers. How sad." "Let them shout," said another. "No one listens, no one helped Earth, no one traded with them. They weren't feared, they weren't respected, they were ignored." But, far from the council, deep in an old, forgotten region of space, something stirred, something ancient, something human. An old scavenger ship drifted near a dead system, searching for scrap metal. Captain Drom, a small gray-skinned alien, leaned over his screen. His ship was slow and weak, but he had good eyes. His scanners picked up strange signals, faint, deep, cold. He squinted. "What is that?" His scanner blinked again. "A shape." No, not one, many. He zoomed in. There they were, massive ships, sleeping in silence, covered in black metal, no lights, no signal. Drom's hands shook. These ships were human. He recognized the shape, the markings, but no human ship had ever been that big. No human ship had ever reached this system. And they weren't moving. They were waiting. He turned off his scanners and backed away. "I saw nothing," he whispered. "Nothing at all." He left in silence, but he wasn't fast enough. One of the ships turned. Just a little. Just enough to let him know. It saw him. Back at the Galactic Council, the leaders laughed again. "Humans tried to send a colony ship 100 years ago," said Zelvar. "It got lost in deep space. They probably ate each other," someone said, and laughter followed. They didn't know that the lost humans had survived. They didn't know those humans had changed. Back on Earth, life was quiet. Humanity had advanced slowly. They built new satellites. They explored nearby planets. They dreamed of joining the galactic community, but no one invited them. Governments on Earth asked the Council for help many times. They asked for trade, for knowledge, even for peace. They were ignored, so they waited. They didn't know about the lost ones. Captain Mira Tran, head of Earth's deep space program, looked at a strange signal on her screen. It was weak, coded, and old. But she recognized something in it. An Earth beacon, but not one they were using anymore. She frowned. "This isn't ours," she said. "At least, not from this century." She didn't tell the world yet. Not until she understood it. In another part of the galaxy, a Tulkor scout ship sent a probe into the same region the scavenger saw. The probe was fast. It entered the black zone where no stars shone. It sent a signal, then vanished. The Tulkor ship followed. A minute later, it too vanished. No explosion, no wreckage. Just silence. The Council noticed. "Pirates," someone said. "Or a black hole," another guessed. They didn't believe it was humans. Why would they? One young alien officer disagreed. He had studied old Earth signals for fun. His name was Jarn, and he had listened to Earth's music, their voices, their dreams. He had read about the old colony ship that disappeared. He believed they were out there. And now, he had proof. He went to the Council and showed them the probe. Logs, the ship records, the strange human signal that echoed through deep space. "They're back," he said. "I think they never died. I think they built something out there." The Council laughed again. Jarn was removed from the room. But far away, in the darkness, the dreadnoughts began to move. They did not speak. They did not shine. But they moved. Slowly, like giants waking from a long sleep. One by one, they turned toward the heart of the galaxy, toward Earth, toward the ones who had forgotten them. Mira Tran watched the signals grow stronger. She didn't know who was sending them. Not yet, but they were human, older than anything Earth had now. She stared at the screen as numbers flashed across it. Coordinates. A message. We return. She called the world leaders. No one believed her at first. Then more signals came. Then the stars near the edge of the galaxy began to go dark. The first dreadnought entered normal space near an old mining station owned by the Gorlax Empire. The workers there laughed when they saw the strange ship. A ghost, they called it. Then it fired. A beam of white. Energy flashed across space. The station vanished. Not exploded, not destroyed, just gone. A single message followed, do not interfere. The council heard it. This time they didn't laugh. They called emergency meetings. They pulled fleets from peaceful borders. They sent warnings to every empire. But it was too late. One after another, the dreadnoughts moved through space, not attacking, not stopping, but making a path, a silent march towards something no one understood. And Earth? Earth watched too, confused, shocked. Mira spoke to the world. These ships are human, but not ours. They're from the lost colony. Panic spread. Were they friend or enemy? No one knew. Back at the council, fear replaced laughter. Old recordings were played again. The logs of the lost colony ship. They had asked for help. No one came. They must hate us, whispered one counselor. They've returned, said another. And they are not happy. Jarn watched from his small home. He felt no fear, only sadness. The jokes were over. The silence was broken. And the galaxy would never be the same. In the dark, the dreadnoughts kept coming. One alien general sent a warning. Turn back or be destroyed, he said. The human ships didn't answer. They didn't need to. They were already here. Captain Mira. Tran didn't sleep. The signal had not stopped since it arrived. It echoed in her head even when she closed her eyes. Low, steady, human. She stood alone in the control room of the Earth Space Research Center, staring at the holographic projection that showed the path of the unknown fleet. Around her, engineers whispered. Techs worked fast, and everyone avoided asking the same question out loud. Who were they really? She raised her voice slowly. Bring up the signal again. Clean it more. The room went quiet. A soft sound filled the space again. A voice buried deep in static. A male voice, slow and calm with strange pauses. This is Leviathan Prime, returning from deep void. Mission never ended. Earth signal detected. Approaching. Origin. It was human. But it didn't sound like any voice Mira knew. Something about it was cold. Not threatening. Just different. She turned to her assistant, a young man named Alan Pierce. He had studied old Earth transmissions, worked in linguistics and audio reconstruction. He had always believed humans weren't alone, that one day someone would answer the signals Earth sent into space for centuries. They're not answering our modern channels, Alan said, adjusting his headset. They're using old radio, frequencies, ones we stopped using 200 years ago. Mira nodded slowly. Because that's when they left? Alan blinked. You think these ships are from the colony? I think they never stopped waiting for a reply. In the Galactic Council, fear had replaced laughter. The large hall once filled with mocking jokes about Earth was now filled with worried voices. Holograms floated in the air, showing the path of the strange fleet. One ship had passed near a planet owned by the Rithari species, tall, crystal-skinned creatures who rarely spoke. The Rithari leader, High Whisperer Koleth, stood silently. Then, in a slow voice, said, It paused, only for a second. As if it looked at us, then it moved on. What does it want? asked another. No one answered. Many feared it would strike. Others believed it had a message, but none had dared approach. Jarn, the young officer who had warned them earlier, sat in a small chamber alone. His records had been deleted from the council's official meetings. His name had been buried. He wasn't supposed to be part of this. But someone had sent him a copy of the signal. He listened to it over and over, eyes wide. Then, he packed a small bag and left his post. He wasn't running. He was preparing, because deep in his heart, he believed this wasn't an invasion, it was a return. On Earth, Mira met with the leaders of the planet's major nations, presidents, generals, scientists, all gathered in a secure underground base. They asked questions, many questions, too many. She listened patiently. Then she raised her hand. They are not attacking. They are passing through systems. They avoid contact, but they are heading here. A general leaned forward. What happens when they arrive? Mira looked him in the eye. That depends on us. Can we stop them? Asked a voice. No, she answered without pause. They are too advanced, and they don't seem hostile. Silence filled the room. An older diplomat stood up. He had served during the early days of Earth's first contact attempts. He had written letters to the Galactic Council. None were answered. They were left behind, he said softly. Abandoned, forgotten. Now they come home. And we fear them, not because of what they've done, but because of what we didn't do. Above the planet's orbit, the space stations watched the sky. Dozens of operators sat at screens, their hands shaking slightly every time a new contact appeared. Another ship just dropped from FTL, one said. Where? Outer range. No heat signature. No weapons active. Send greeting? The room hesitated. Then a message appeared on the station's main screen. Plain text. We see you. Awaiting permission to approach Earth, no aggression. Repeat, no aggression. Mira received the message in her office. She looked at the words carefully. She tapped a button. This is Captain Mira Tran of Earth. You may approach. You are welcome. The reply came instantly. Gratitude received. Coming home. From deep space, one of the great ships changed course, slowly, gently. Its black surface reflected starlight like water. It moved like a shadow, silent, calm. On the surface of Earth, people came out of their homes, looked up at the sky. Children pointed at stars. Old men and women cried softly. Something had changed. Across the galaxy, dozens of alien races listened to the signal. Some were curious. Some were scared, but all of them understood one thing. Earth was not what they thought. In a quiet village on Earth's northern continent, an old woman named Hannah sat on her porch, watching the stars. She had sent messages to space as a young girl. Now at the end of her life, someone had answered. They're ours, she whispered. They never stopped trying to come back. Back in orbit, the ship moved closer, slowly. It didn't stop at the outer ring. It passed the defense satellites. It moved past the old moon base. Then for the first time it spoke again. Open a channel. We wish to speak. Mira opened the line. Her voice shook. This is Earth Command. We are listening. A face appeared. Human. Pale skin, bright eyes, short silver hair. A man. Maybe 40 years old. But Mira knew at once he wasn't 40. He had lived longer. Much longer. This is Commander Elias Rourke. We are the Legacy Fleet, ship Leviathan Prime. We return from the outer void. We have journeyed through places your maps do not show, and we have returned because you called. Mira swallowed hard. We didn't know you were still out there. Rourke smiled softly. We waited, we built, we learned, we changed, but we never stopped listening. Why now? Mira asked. Because we heard your voice, Rourke said. We heard Earth speak again, and we knew. It was time. The world watched as the great ship moved into low orbit. More followed behind it. 1, 2, then 10. Not an army, not a threat, but a sign. A message across the stars. Earth had not been forgotten. In the council chamber, silence ruled once again. The laughter was long gone. Now, every race, every leader, every proud empire that once mocked Earth had only one thought. They had made a mistake. Humanity was never alone. They had just been waiting for their family to come home. Rain fell softly over the United Earth Assembly building in Geneva. Inside, the great hall buzzed with quiet energy. Screens glowed, and holograms danced in the air. Delegates from every part of Earth had arrived for an emergency session. There were questions, concerns, and quiet whispers about the fleet above them. Humans, yes, but strangers too. Captain Mira Tran stood beside the grand window, watching the lights of the hovering ships above the clouds. She hadn't slept. Her uniform was perfectly pressed, but her eyes were tired. The Leviathan Prime had remained in low orbit, quiet and still, but its presence changed everything. Alan Pierce, her assistant, approached with a datapad. They sent another message. Mira turned. "Read it." Alan hesitated. "It's not for us. It's for the world." Mira frowned and took the pad. The message was simple. Let Earth choose. We are here to share, not to rule. We await invitation. She stared at it for a long moment. It was not a demand. It was not a request. It was a choice. In the assembly chamber, her voice echoed through the hall. They are not here to take. They are here to return. But they are waiting for us to decide if we will accept them. After everything, they want our permission. A murmur spread across the delegates. An older woman from the Pacific region stood slowly. Her name was Lita Noran, a former astronaut who had once walked on Mars. Her voice was steady. "When I was young, we dreamed of stars. We sent messages into the void, not knowing who might answer. Now someone has. And they are us." Another delegate rose, a man from the African Alliance. "But they are different now. Their ships are beyond anything we understand." "What if they don't belong anymore?" Mira answered before anyone else could. "They waited for us, they listened. They still speak our language. Maybe they changed, but they never stopped being human." Above Earth, Commander Elias Rourke stood on the bridge of the Leviathan Prime, hands behind his back. Around him, the bridge crew worked in silence. They did not speak much, not because they were unfriendly, but because they were trained for patience. A young officer named Kale watched the Earth below. He had been born in deep space, never seen a planet before. His eyes were wide. "It's so blue," he whispered. Elias smiled faintly. "That's what they said a long time ago." "Do you think they'll let us land?" Kyle asked. "That's not for us to decide," Elias replied. "We came back to offer, not to force." In another section of the ship, an older woman named Dr. Yelena Merrick studied the old data feeds Earth had sent centuries ago. Art, music, languages. She had carried these things through the void. She had built entire memory banks of Earth culture. Now she wept silently as she heard a child's song playing over the speakers. "I remember this," she whispered. "I was 6 when we left, and now I'm 206. Back on Earth in a small home in rural India, a boy named Rayan sat with his grandfather, watching the sky through a telescope. He didn't understand everything, but he knew those ships were special. He could feel it. "They're from here?" Rayan asked. His grandfather smiled. "Yes, little star. They are us, from long ago. And they came back." "Why?" "Because Earth called." In the Council of Worlds, the mood had changed from fear to curiosity. Representatives of alien species, once confident in their place above Earth, now watched the situation closely. The Zalari speaker, a being made of shimmering light, asked a question that floated through space. What will the humans do now that their lost ones have returned? The answer came not from Earth but from the Leviathan Prime. Commander Elias Rourke sent a message that echoed across the galaxy. "We seek peace. We seek connection. But we will not hide again. We come as family, not as strangers. The message was transmitted openly. Every species received it. On Earth, debates continued. Some feared what the return might mean, others felt wonder. But in the end, it was not the leaders who decided. It was the people. Children wrote letters, artists painted pictures, scientists sent data, cities turned on bright lights at night, blinking them into the sky. One message repeated in many forms: "Welcome home." That night, the first shuttle descended. It was not large, it was not loud. It moved like a falling feather through clouds. It landed in a green field near a small town in Canada. A crowd had gathered behind safety lines, unsure of what to expect. The shuttle opened with a soft sound. A ramp extended, and then a man walked out. Elias Rourke. Dressed not in armor or strange gear, but in a simple Earth uniform from 2 centuries ago, clean and proud. He stepped forward and looked at the people gathered. A child broke the silence first. "Are you really from space?" He smiled and knelt. "I'm from Earth, just from far away." The child laughed. That moment was shared across every screen, every planet, every ship. And in the Council of Worlds, there was silence again. But this time it was not from fear. It was from understanding. Earth was not alone. And those who had once laughed now watched closely. The sky was no longer quiet. The stars had whispered, and Earth had answered. A cool wind moved across the fields as more ships landed on Earth, one in Asia, another in South America, and a third near the coast of Africa. They came quietly, without noise, without threats. Their crews stepped out slowly, dressed in simple uniforms, each marked with an ancient symbol, the Earth rising over a star. But it wasn't just Earth watching anymore. In orbit, dozens of alien vessels had begun to gather. Observers from the Galactic Council, scientists from distant worlds, even a few traders, all curious. Some feared Earth's forgotten fleet. Others simply wanted answers. Who were these humans who had returned from the edge of space? And what did they carry with them? Commander Elias Rourke stood beside Dr. Yelena Merrick on the observation deck of the Leviathan Prime, staring at the growing number of alien ships. Lights blinked gently across the darkness like fireflies in a still night. "They're all watching," Yelena whispered. "They have questions," Rourke replied. "They always had questions," she said, folding her arms. "But now they're quiet. That silence says more than any words." Rourke said nothing. He was thinking of something else, something deeper. He remembered Earth not as it was now, but as it had been the day they left. He remembered the voices on the radio, the launch into the dark, the long years in deep sleep, the centuries of searching. He remembered their promise: return when Earth is ready, or when Earth needs you most. And now, here they were. But Earth had changed, and so had they. In a remote science station in Greenland, Dr. Ayaan Malik was studying the visitors closely. She wasn't afraid, only curious. Her small team of researchers had been allowed to examine one of the returning ships. Inside, they found a balance of nature and machine. Gardens built into the walls, soft lighting, clean air. "They lived in these for generations?" her assistant asked. Ayaan nodded. "Yes. They traveled through deep space for hundreds of years. They had to carry life with them." In the central chamber of the Leviathan, a group of young crew members sat in a circle, sharing old stories. One of them, Kale, had never seen Earth before this journey. His voice was soft, full of wonder. "My mother used to talk about oceans. She said the sky had birds that sang in the morning. I thought they were made up. But now, I've seen them. I've touched the grass. It's real." An older woman beside him, Lana Urek, smiled. "You're lucky. I was 10 when we left Earth. I remember the smell of rain. I missed that most." Their stories spread through Earth's networks. People listened. Some cried. Others smiled. Many felt something they hadn't felt in a long time: hope. In a quiet classroom in Japan, a teacher played a recording of the spaceborne humans sharing their history. Her students, young and full of questions, leaned forward. They left to find a way to help us, she said. And now they're back. A boy in the back raised his hand. But why didn't they come sooner? The teacher paused. Then she answered gently, maybe we weren't ready. Maybe they weren't either. At the United Earth Assembly, new talks began. The leaders now faced a strange but peaceful challenge: how to welcome their own people back home. Some wanted to give them seats in the council. Others thought they should first live on Earth again, learn the new ways. Ambassador Noah Kim stood at the center of the room, speaking with calm purpose. These are not aliens, they are part of our story. We cannot treat them like outsiders. They have carried Earth's heart through stars and time. Now we must carry theirs. His words were broadcast across the world. In the skies above, the Leviathan sister ships opened their archives to Earth scientists. Data from faraway galaxies, lost human art, languages preserved from forgotten tribes, even a perfect recording of Earth's first space launch, all returned to their home. But something else came with them. A signal. It was weak, buried deep in old files. No one had noticed it before. A simple transmission sent during the fleet's last deep space stop before turning home. Dr. Yelena discovered it late one night while going through archive files. She called Commander Rourke at once. I found something, she said. It's not from us. The file played, a voice, soft, but not human. You are not alone. The path you follow is known. We watch. We wait. Rourke stared at the screen. Where did this come from? A system near the edge of the Perseus arm. It was empty when we passed, or so we thought. He didn't speak for a while. Then he said, we were followed. Back on Earth, the news hadn't reached the public yet. The governments and the returning fleet decided to keep it quiet, not because of fear, but because Earth was still healing, still learning to trust again. And the returnees had more to share. They brought medicine, not magic, but cures developed in long travel, ways to regrow damaged organs, to heal the mind. They brought farming techniques for dry lands, energy systems that needed no burning or waste. They didn't bring power. They brought wisdom. In a remote village in South America, a returning crew built a water purifier in a river that had been dry for years. The people didn't ask how it worked. They only smiled when clean water flowed again. In the deserts of Australia, another team helped rebuild an old solar station, powering nearby towns that had been forgotten by the main cities. And in the skies, the watching alien ships slowly drifted closer, not with weapons but with curiosity. One ship, marked with glowing symbols, sent a message to Earth. May we speak? It was the first time in years that the Council of Worlds had contacted Earth directly, but this time, the tone was different, respectful, careful, curious. Earth was no longer small. The joke had become a story, and the story had become a beacon. More signals began arriving from deep space. Questions, greetings, even invitations. But Elias Rourke said nothing right away. He stood again by the window of the Leviathan Prime, watching Earth sleep beneath him. This is only the beginning, he whispered. Cale stood beside him. Do you think we'll leave again? Rourke turned slowly. No. This time, we stay, until Earth is ready to walk among the stars again. He paused, then smiled gently. And when that day comes, we'll go together. The stars did not answer, but they were listening. Far away from the crowded cities hidden in the calm valleys of New Zealand, an old observatory had begun to pick up strange energy waves. Dr. Elena Voss, a quiet scientist who preferred silence over speeches, was the first to notice the shift. Every evening she walked alone up the stone path toward the old dome, carrying her worn-out notebook and a mug of green tea. For many years, the machines inside the observatory had remained quiet. Now they hummed like they had a message to tell. At first, Elena thought it was a system error, some ghost from old software. But as she listened closer, she began to notice a pattern. The waveforms were soft, rhythmic, like breathing, not random, not natural. And they matched something from the Leviathan's archives, something that had been recorded far out in the dark, right before the fleet turned back toward Earth. The signals had returned, but this time, they were closer. Elena sent her findings to the United Earth Assembly and requested a silent analysis. Within hours, the message reached Commander Rourke aboard the Leviathan Prime. He sat alone in his room, listening to the playback again and again. The same soft pattern, the same distant tone. But now, it was layered with something new. A sound, like a whisper. He didn't know the words, no one did. But the feeling was clear. It was like someone was calling home. Kyle and Lana, two of the younger crew members, joined him later that night in the observation deck. Kyle sat on the floor pulling up the old star charts. Lana leaned against the glass wall watching a comet move slowly across the sky. "They know we're here," Kyle said. Rourke nodded. "They've always known." "Then why now?" Lana asked. "Why reach out now?" Rourke didn't answer. Not because he didn't want to, but because he didn't know. On Earth, leaders met in long private meetings. Some were hopeful, others were unsure. But no one wanted to ignore the message, not after everything that had already changed. In a peaceful spaceport built on the edge of Africa, a new ship was being prepared, not to fight, but to travel. It was called Horizon Wing, and it would carry Earth's first peaceful crew into the unknown in almost 400 years. Captain Mira Tenzin was chosen to lead the journey. She was not from the Leviathan fleet, but she had been trained in Earth's New Peace Academy. Her parents had lived through the last global crisis. She had grown up watching the stars not with fear but with dreams. Before leaving, Mira visited her grandmother in a quiet home near the mountains. "Are you afraid?" her grandmother asked, gently brushing a blanket over her lap. "Yes," Mira said honestly. "But I'm also curious. What if we find someone waiting?" Her grandmother smiled. "Then be kind, and be ready." Across the sea on the Leviathan Prime, Rourke walked through the ship's garden. The plants, grown from seeds taken centuries ago, were now taller than a person. He paused by a tall tree and touched its bark. "This tree," he whispered to Yelena, who walked beside him, "came from a forest that doesn't exist anymore." Yelena looked at the soft green leaves. "But now it lives again." Rourke turned to her. "Like us." In the Council of Worlds, the alien representatives finally agreed to a private meeting. For the first time in centuries, Earth was invited, not as a problem, not as a joke, but as a guest. Dr. Ayaan Malik was chosen to speak. She stood before the alien leaders, her voice steady but calm. "Humanity has made mistakes," she said. "But we've also learned. We have seen stars you've only read about in stories. We have mapped silence. We have listened to the dark. And now, we are ready to listen to you." A quiet ripple moved through the chamber. Not laughter, not doubt, just stillness. It was the beginning of something new. Later that evening, back on Earth, Captain Mira stood at the base of her ship. Children had gathered nearby, waving small flags, some holding flowers. An old man handed her a book with old star maps. "Just in case," he said with a smile. She smiled back. "I'll bring back better ones." As the Horizon Wing lifted gently into the sky, lights from across Earth followed its path. People watched from rooftops, from mountains, from deserts and oceans. A journey was beginning, not away from home, but toward understanding. Back on the Leviathan Prime, Cale discovered something strange in the latest signal playback. It was faint, almost lost in the noise. But it was there. Not words, not warnings. A melody. He played it for Lana and Rourke, a series of soft tones like music from a distant world. The pattern was mathematical, perfect, beautiful. "It's a greeting," Kyle said, "not a warning, a song." Yelena joined them, eyes wide. "We've been looking at it all wrong. This isn't just communication, it's an invitation. To where? No one knew. But the message was clear. Something, someone, was out there. And they were ready to meet humanity. Earth was no longer silent, and the stars had begun to sing. The stars looked different now, not because they had changed, but because Earth had. People across the planet had started watching the sky again, not with fear, but with hope. It had been months since the horizon wing left Earth. News came only, through light signals and soft messages bounced across distant satellites. But every update brought something new, something wonderful. The crew had passed through quiet systems, strange nebulae, and gravity wells older than recorded time. But the real change didn't happen out there. It happened inside them. Captain Mira Tenzin stood in the observation bay holding a cup of tea. Her eyes followed the slow movement of a new planet on the screen. Green clouds, silver oceans, and soft golden rings. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Dr. Kaito Juno, the ship's linguist, stood beside her. "It's singing again," he said. The pattern is clearer now. The strange signal that Earth first received had returned. Louder, more layered. Not just notes, not just numbers, but now, full harmonies, as if the melody itself was growing. "Do you think they're near?" Mira asked. "I don't think they ever left," Kaito replied. "I think they were always close. We just weren't ready to hear them." Back on Earth, the Leviathan Prime had become more than a fleet ship. It was now a center of learning, exchange, and peace. Commander Rourke had opened its great halls to diplomats, artists, thinkers, and scientists. It was no longer just about defense. It was about meaning. Kale had started teaching younger cadets about stars. Lana had begun to record the new music from deep space, turning it into calming soundtracks played in every Earth station. Even Yelena, once the quiet engineer, had written a short book, What We Heard in the Silence. It was read by millions. Translated into dozens of alien languages, Earth, once ignored, once doubted, now had something others wanted. Understanding. When the first soft ships arrived in Earth's orbit, they made no sound. No threats, just light. Long arcs of silver and gold moved across the sky, like peaceful birds gliding above water. They had no flags, no faces, only energy. And when they opened, light stepped out, shapes that shimmered, glowing not with power, but with presence. They didn't speak in words. They spoke in color, tone, feeling, and Earth understood. Not perfectly, but enough. The leaders of Earth greeted them not with uniforms, but with music and stories. They shared food, laughter, maps of the oceans, and the sound of the wind through the forests. One of the visitors reached out to touch a tree. It paused, then glowed softly, as if remembering something. Across the stars, Mira's ship had reached the edge of the mapped galaxy. A strange structure floated before them, older than any human civilization. It wasn't a city. It wasn't a machine. It was something in between, a place where memory lived. Mira and her crew walked carefully through its halls. Lights moved, with them not as warning but as guides. On the walls, soft shapes showed stories, not written, not spoken, just lived. One image showed a planet with blue seas and clouds. Another showed hands reaching across stars. Then something familiar, a Leviathan ship long ago passing through the dark. "They've been watching us," Kaito said. "No," Mira whispered. "They've been waiting." At the center of the structure was a circle like a pool of water but clear as glass. When Mira stepped close, it shimmered. Her own reflection changed. Not older, not younger, but wiser. As if time itself saw her, she placed her hand near the edge and the light answered. Back on Earth, children began drawing stars in their notebooks. Not just as dots in the sky, but as homes, destinations, friends. The song that had first reached Earth now played in cities, parks, and quiet bedrooms. People fell asleep to it. Pilots trained with it. Scientists studied it. But no one fully understood it. And that was okay. Because sometimes the most powerful connection isn't full understanding. It's listening. Commander Rourke stood once more in the Leviathan's garden. The tree he had touched before was now taller. Flowers bloomed near its roots. Beside him stood Yelena and Lana. Kyle arrived moments later with a new telescope. "We're not the end of the story," Rourke said. "No," Yelena replied. "We're the first page." Mira's ship began its return journey. But it wasn't coming home with trophies or treasures. It came with something far more important. A message, not of dominance, not of victory, but of welcome. When the Horizon Wing entered Earth's orbit, millions gathered to watch. Lights filled the skies. The old jokes about humanity being behind had vanished. Now even the oldest alien empires looked to Earth with respect, because Earth had done what no one expected. It had listened. It had waited. And when the time came, it stepped forward not in fear, but in hope. And so in the quiet spaces between stars, where once only silence lived, a new voice was heard. Human, curious, kind, and forever reaching forward.